Hi, I'm Lillian, welcome back to my channel Income Pages. Today I'm going to be talking you through all of the statistics behind my 2021 reading. I loved collecting all the stats and figures for this video. I adore making a nice bar graph or pie chart on Excel, so let's just jump in. Section 1 of this video I'm calling how much did I read? And the answer is, in 2021, I read 36 books and 14,092 pages. I started and then didn't finish / abandoned / put on hold, whatever you want to call it, 7 more books. And then as of midnight on New Year's Eve, I was still in the middle of reading 2 more books. These 9 books I didn't finish in 2021. I'm not going to count towards any of the books finished statistics for obvious reasons, but the pages I read from them are going to count towards the pages read statistics for obvious reasons, unless I state otherwise. So to start with, here are all the books I read in 2021. And here they are in rainbow order for fun. So I'm going to shuffle over. And firstly, we are going to look at my best reading month of the year. And I have 3 graphs to illustrate this in different ways. Firstly, this graph will show how many books I read per month, aka how many books I finished reading in a month. And so from this graph, we can deduce that February, July, and August could be my best reading months. But not so fast. This second graph I think is more accurate because it shows how many pages each month I read, which is really, I think, the more useful statistic. So in this case, it is June, July, and August, so the lovely warm summer months, when I read the most pages per month. And then finally, to see my best reading month, we could look at how many days per month I actually did any reading. And shocker, August comes out on top yet again. So August is, in every way that counts, my best reading month of 2021. So my average number of pages per book was 360 pages. This stat doesn't count pages from books I didn't finish. This is actually quite a big increase, I think, when compared to my 2020 reading stats. That year, the average book length was 315 pages. So I think this is quite a steep jump up. Although, if you had asked me if I thought I was reading longer or shorter books on average last year, I would have said shorter. So clearly I was wrong, and I've been reading a lot more hefty books than I thought I was. So here is the top 5 of the longest books I read in 2021. The winner at 757 pages is A Court of Silver Flames. If only it had been a better book. I digress. But I have done some maths, and Sarah J. Maas books alone took up 3,827 pages of my reading of 2021, which is 27% of the overall pages I read. Really got to wonder what I was doing. And then here are the top 5 shortest books I read. The absolute shortest one was The Empress of Soul Fortune by Niveau, which has only 121 pages and was much better than A Court of Silver Flames. Okay, part 2 I'm calling Who Did I Read From? I read from 44 different authors, and once again I'm counting the artists of graphic novels as authors in this category. Of those 44, 30 of them were new to me, were authors I had never read from before, and then 14 obviously were authors I had read from before. For author gender, it breaks down to 7 male authors, 36 female authors, and then 1 non-binary author. And for author race, it could break down to 17 white authors and 27 authors of colour. But the statistic is misleading. I read an anthology called 1,000 Beginnings and Endings, which had 15 different authors of colour in it. So 15 of those authors were just from this one book. So actually a more representative and accurate pie chart would be this one, which shows you that I read 22 books by white authors and only 14 books where at least one of the authors was a person of colour. The next that I have is about the countries I read from, so author nationalities. I have to say, it can be weirdly difficult to work out where an author is from. If someone's bio says they live in Massachusetts, it doesn't specifically say they are American. Lots of people immigrate to everywhere, and unless it says blah blah is an American author who lives in Massachusetts, I really was quite loath to count them. So to the best of my knowledge, to the best of my guessing ability, this is the breakdown of countries I have read from in 2021. At the top, to no one's surprise, even my own, unfortunately, is the US, where 21 of the authors came from. And then finally in this section, we have authors I read from multiple times in 2021. There's not many of them. In first place is Sarah J Maas. Like I said, I read 6 books, 6 and a bit, because I didn't finish Kingdom of Ash, from her in 2021, a total of 3,827 pages. And her books actually only got a 2.5 average rating. Fun fact. Then it was Riley Sager. I read 2 books from him, or 734 pages in total, average rating of 3 stars. Then David Mitchell, I also read 2 books from, and the total number of pages was 651, and he also had a 3-star average rating. And then finally, Marjorie Liu and Sana Takeda, I read 3 books from them because I reread the first 3 in the Monstrous graphic novel series. That was a total of 522 pages, and they got a 4-star average rating. Section number 3 of this stats video I am calling Where Did I Read From? And I'm interpreting the word where a little bit loosely. The first I have for this is my rereads versus new books. Of the 36 books I read, exactly a third of them were rereads, so 12 rereads, and then 24 new to me books. To get a little bit more specific and break that down into what I'm calling book sources, obviously I had 12 rereads, like from my shelves, I'm calling them. I had 7 books I borrowed, either from friends or family, or actually more likely from the library. I started using this app called BorrowBox this year, which has been great. And then I read 6 books which had been on my TBR shelf for over 6 months, and 11 books that had been on my TBR shelf for under 6 months. The book I owned for the longest before finally reading it in 2021 was Slade House by David Mitchell, which I've had since early 2016. And the book that I read the quickest after buying it was The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman, which I bought in, I think, late November and read by mid-December. So a pretty quick, unusually quick turnaround for that book. And then I bought and then read in the same year, in 2021, 8 books. For book format, it breaks down to this. The vast majority, 28 books, were just like ordinary prose, I'm counting them as. And then I had 1 anthology, 7 graphic novels, and 1 comic. Although I know the distinction between comic and graphic novel is somewhat arbitrary, that is what I'm counting it as. And then for book form, this is the handy pie chart for that. I read mostly paperbacks, read 22 paperbacks, 3 hardbacks, and 11 ebooks. Most of those ebooks were from the library, because I only get ebooks from the library. So the 7 library books I read are 7 of these 11. Welcome to part 4 of the stats. This bit is called What Did I Read? So in terms of fiction and non-fiction, I read 33 fiction books and 3 non-fiction. But to break it down further in terms of genre, this is what that looks like. My most read genre was fantasy at 16 books, and then contemporary / general fiction at 5, then 4 mystery thriller, 3 sci-fi and 3 paranormal books, 2 general non-fiction, 2 romance books, and then 1 book that was about mythology and folklore. For age range, I read exactly 1 children's book. I read 13 YA books and 22 adult books. And then I thought I would do a statistic I'd never done before and look at like how popular the books I read were on Goodreads. So for most popular books I read, here is the top 5. In the number 1 position, we have A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas, which has over 814,000 ratings on Goodreads. And then for least popular books I read, again, only in terms of Goodreads, here's that bottom 5, I guess we'll call it, and the least popular book I read was Red Thread by Charlotte Higgins, and that only has 77 ratings on Goodreads. Then I've got a quick stat on the books that took me the longest and shortest amounts of time to read. So books I managed to read in one day are unsurprisingly mostly graphic novels. They are Bloodlust and Bonnets, Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me, The Empress of Salt and Fortune, The Encyclopedia of Early Earth, and then Through the Woods. And the book that took me the longest to read was Number 9 Dream by David Mitchell, which took a whopping 25 days from start to finish. I don't necessarily mean that I read it every day for 25 days, but that the day I started and the day I finished it are 25 days apart. That is what that stat means. Of the books I read, 13 of them were within series and 23 were standalones. And finally, I've got some I think, fun statistics inspired by Kayla at Books and Lala, because she likes to look at like the appearances of her books to see if there's any common themes. I just did book cover colours. So here is the most to least popular book colours I read in 2021. Most popular was blue and green with 7 covers each. Of how nice the covers are, I have done a whole tier ranking video where I ranked all of the book covers I read from last year, from like most beautiful to would burn them in a fiery pit. So beautiful covers, I think I read 6 of them. And then in terms of objectively ugly covers, I think I read 3. And then finally in this section, I put all of the book titles I read in 2021 into one of those things online where it like counts how many times the words occur and gives you like a word cloud of the most common words. So avoiding anything like and, the, and a. My most common word was court, which is very unsurprising because I reread the entire ACOTAR series and then read like the 2 other ones. Then it's monstrous because I read 3 of the graphic novel series, so obviously monstrous occurred 3 times. Then the ones that were actually interesting, but not really because they only appeared twice, are the words dark, red, royal, and salt. And that brings us to part 5 of the statistics, which is, did I like what I read? So my average rating given out in 2021 was 3.2 stars. And I've been saying, oh yeah, I had a great reading year. I liked what I was reading, mostly. But that is not a great average rating. Like, I should say 3 stars for me means I liked it, solid. 2 stars is like, it was okay. And then 4 stars is, I really liked it. So 3 stars is not a bad rating, but it's not a good average, I think, especially when in 2020, my average rating was 3.5. So it's like gone down a chunk, I think. So let's hope that gets a little bit better in 2022. This is the average rating per month breakdown, but bear in mind that for months like January, November and December, I only actually finished 1 book, whereas in other months, this is the average of like 5 or 6 books. So this isn't the most accurate graph, but could be useful. And so the total number of books for each rating, I had 1 book, which I gave 1 star to. 11 books got 2 stars from me, and then 8 books got 3 stars. 12 books got 4 stars, and 4 books got 5 stars. So let's break down these averages a bit more specifically. Here is my average rating per genre. And I think this just shows that no, I don't particularly enjoy reading like contemporary or literary fiction books. But next is my average ratings per age range. The 4-star average for children's books is a bit of an anomaly here because I only read 1 of them. I reread Dragon Rider, which got 4 stars from me, so that's why that rating is so high. But this graph really just does reinforce the fact that I'm finding YA books a lot more disappointing than I used to, and I should probably steer further away from them in 2022. Then just for the hell of it, I made this graph. So this is looking at how many ratings a book has on Goodreads, and then grouping them together in brackets and then working out my average rating for them. I don't really think this says anything that monumental, but there it is. I did that. My next stat is new authors versus returning authors. Which did I enjoy more? The answer is returning authors, which had an average of 3.3 stars, and then new to me authors only had an average of 3.0. Again, there's not much in that, but that brings us to my final statistic for this video, which is the average rating for rereads and then new to me books. Unsurprisingly, my reread average is a lot higher. It's 3.7 versus 3.0 because when I reread a book, it tends to be because I really like it, and new books always have the opportunity to be incredibly bad. Whereas I feel like you would know if a reread was going to be incredibly bad. So those were all my 2021 reading statistics. I hope you found this video at least slightly interesting. I've already started making my 2022 like reading spreadsheet, and I'm putting a lot more statistics on it, and I'm automating it and making drop down menus and pie charts that will automatically fill themselves in throughout the year. It's very, very exciting, and I want to get back to working on it. So I will say thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.